Hi everyone, I'm John and today we're going to be looking at EQing the didgeridoo when we're recording or if we're playing live. Mainly be concentrating on the recording process, but I will also, talk about, what you can do when you're playing live as well in that situation. So I've got my program set up so that I'm going to dive into the DAW in a minute and you can have a look and see how a parametric equalizer works, because this is really important for EQing, how to use a parametric equalizer. If you want to get professional recordings in the future or just get good recordings, then it's really important to be able to use this, and it's not too difficult to learn. Once you become familiar with it, like anything, bit of practice, keep using it and you'll get used to it. So I'll be talking about that, how to use Parametric Equalizer in a plugin inside a digital audio workstation, and also how it corresponds to, say, EQ on a mixing desk or on your bit of hardware digital recorder. You might have like a Tascam hardware recorder or something, and you might want to be able to EQ the didgeridoo in that. So it applies to that as well. Anyway, here we go. We're going to dive straight into the DAW and I'll show you what it's all about. Right, we're inside the DAW now. You see my cursor here moving about. You can see what I'm doing on the screen. So this is a plugin EQ from Studio One, and if you can see from this, gives you the decibel scale of gain, and this is going the other way. And then you've got the frequency range from right down to sort of 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz right up here. And then you've got the different frequency bands here. One there, you can see another one here, another one here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bands. So when we're talking about EQ, you've got various bands that you can, you can control the various amounts of EQ on each band setting. So so what I'm going to do is, this is one EQ. I'm going to actually show you on an easier EQ to look at. Now this is another EQ. It's much the same as the other one. It's just that I can explain it easier on here because it's a simpler layout, and you'll be able to understand it a bit easier. So on this one, I've got the same kind of settings. There's only 4 bands. 1, 2, 3, 4 bands here. And you'll see, again, from 20, here's 20 hertz, goes right down to 10 hertz there, and it goes right up to 20 kilohertz and even more. But we're really, more interested in these frequencies here, really, across here. So now this is, again, parametric equalizer controls here. So I've got this little sign here. This is the peaking filter. So if I, for example, push that one up, it goes up to a peak because I've got it set to peaking. So that's, and I can control the width, the bandwidth here. Now this is controlled by the Q. So this is the Q here. Now you watch, when I change that, I can narrow it by raising the figure. When I've got a higher figure, that's gone right up to 4 now on the Q, and it's really quite narrow across here, narrow bandwidth. I'm around 500 hertz here, so if I moved it up a little bit, I'd be sort of between 500 hertz and 1 kilohertz. So, and then if I bring this Q back down, it goes much wider. Can you see there? So now I'm affecting much wider frequencies, like from about 100, right down to here, up to about 2 kilohertz. So that's made the Q much wider by having a lower figure Q here, 1.31. It could be any figure. I go back up to 2, narrow it again, and that changes the Q. So I'm going to bring that back down to 0. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 bands, and I can do the same with this one. This is higher band near the 2K. You can see 2K there, 2 kilohertz frequency. And again, I can do exactly the same. I can control the width. Now, where it says frequency here, this is the center frequency where I can sweep. So basically, I can sweep it backwards and forwards. Now, this gives me a lot of control over, you know, exactly where I want to be doing the EQing. Now, I'm showing you here, but also we can cut it. So that's boosting. And here we've got decibel scale. So if I went right up to there, that would be 9 decibels, which would be massive, which you wouldn't normally do that amount. And then I'll be cutting here. Now, I'll explain a bit more, you know, what effect it has in a bit. But for now, just sort of understand that this is what these controls are doing. And again, I'll turn that back on. Now, let's just return that to 0. Now then, so I'm moving the frequency band around up and down by literally with this cursor. This is how it works on this DAW plugin, Digital Audio Workstation plugin. And as I'm moving the frequency up and down, I can also change the frequency by this control here. It's doing the same thing, basically. So that's the sweep frequency. Let's return that to 0. Gives you an idea. Now, that's the main sort of parametric equalization with a peaking filter. So you've got the Q, you've got the, which is the bandwidth. Q refers to quality. You can look that up if you want to, but you know, if you remember it as the bandwidth, that's really mainly what we're talking about here. And then you've got the frequency, which is a center frequency, which you can move. You know, you can center it at 2K, center it at 1K, center it at 500 hertz, center it in between. You can put it wherever you want to, really. So that's what that's doing. Now, there's also what we call shelf filter. So this here, now this is set to peaking, this fourth band, because this is 1, 2, 3, 4 bands. So this is the fourth band I'm doing. Now I could, let's turn that back on again. I could, this here, peaking filter, this is showing another symbol. That one I've just gone blue there is a shelving filter. So that there is shelving. And you can see it's shaped more like a shelf. I can also change the Q, you know, the Q of that as well. So that, there we go. Let's bring it back down a little bit there. So it looks more like a shelf. I can change the shelf there. But you can see I'm pushing out, and you can move that back and forwards there. And I can also, as I just said, I can change the Q of that. And then what that does is changes the shape. As you can see the curve on that changing there. So you can make it sharper, the curve, more slanted, or more flattened out like that. So, which would make it kind of more, you know, if you bring a really high Q, it might not give you such a natural sound. But if you don't go too mad, you can do what you want really there. But anyway, that's the shelving filter. I don't want to get too lost on that. Let's just turn that one off for a minute. I'll put that back to peaking, and then we'll put that back to 0. And then the other end, this one here, now I've got it set to the peaking filter. Now let's get that back to 0 again. And now I'm going to change that to shelving, low shelf. So that was the high shelf up here, and this is the low shelves. Now if I push that up by putting the gain up there, this control here, gain, is the same thing as I'm doing when I'm pulling this up. It's doing exactly the same thing, except I can do it here or there. Doesn't matter. Again, I can control the Q, and that will give you, you know, you have to listen when you're using this stuff. You have to listen to the sound, you know, to adjust it to your ears, to what sounds right. But for the now, we're just getting the basics of this. So that's the low shelf. Okay, now let's just put that back to the peaking. I'll re-centralize that. Now there's a couple of other things here really important to know: high pass and low pass filter. I'll do the low pass first. This is the low pass filter. So this has got 4 bands plus a low pass and a high pass filter. Now low pass, what that does, if I bring that down, you can see here I've got 20k, 10k, 5k. If I bring that right down, that'll start cutting off all the frequencies above, like if I bring it to there, all above 1k is gonna cut all those frequencies out. So it's a low pass. It's only allowing the low part, it's only allowing frequencies to pass up to this point. And it's got a certain, again, it's got a certain cue here, but I don't adjust that on this parametric setting equalizer. That's set in this particular plugin. It's actually set at a certain slope here, which is done in like I'll do this on the bottom end first. Let's get rid of that for a minute. Right, that's the low pass. I'm going to switch that off. Now we go to the high pass. Oh, it's already up there. I'll bring it back down. So now, right from 10 hertz there, down here, sort of just between 10 and 20, you can start cutting off the real low frequencies. Now, this can be a real use for didge playing, because sometimes we've got a lot of bass that we want to get rid of. And particularly if we close mic. If we're close micing, may really want to use this. So you can cut all the frequencies off. So what it's doing, it's allowing the high frequencies to pass above this high pass filter. Now, I was going to tell you what the angle of this slope here, this applies to the low pass filter as well up here. I can change the slope here. If I look here, I've got 6 dB, 12 dB, 24 dB, and 72 dB slope octave. So what that does is, if I go to 6 dB, look how that changes. That means I can now have a much more rounded slope, and it will change the sound because it's not as steep. I tend to use, if I'm using that, I often use the 12 dB, which is not completely too steep, but it gives me quite a nice sound using this one. But anyway, that gives you an idea, and so you can change the slope of this. You can do all the different settings in there. I've shown you the Pro EQ. That's another one. You can see the frequencies as I'm recording there on my voice. And then this is another one. Again, I've got basically settings for the lower mid frequencies, sort of 2, 3, 4, 500, 600 hertz or whatever. Higher mid frequencies. It's just a different plug-in. I just thought I'd show you it to show you. There's no visual here, so you have to use your ears with that one. I'll come back to this one. Anyway, what I'm going to do now then is I'm going to do some recording. I'm gonna give you a sound now, and I've already recorded a bit of didge. So what I'm going to do is let you hear the didge. It's quite boomy. I recorded it with a bit of a boomy sound going on. So just so that it doesn't make it too easy to EQ, because if I've got it EQ'd all right to start with, then that's going to make it, you might record a didge with a lot of bass in it. So, and you might, you might think, oh God, it's, how can I EQ this? So I've sort of recorded this, and it's got a little bit too much bass in it. So we're going to try and get rid of this now. So hang on, I've just got to turn this Pro EQ off because we don't want that on there. Right, okay, now then. So what I'm going to do is turn on the sound, and I'm going to be quiet while I do this. You're going to just have to watch what I'm doing while I'm EQing the sound, just to get basically in a better ballpark than I am at the moment. All right, so I'm going to be quiet. You're just going to have to watch this cursor and try and follow what I'm doing, really. And to start with, I'm just going to kind of show you all the the different sounds it creates, and then at the end I'm going to try and kind of EQ it to make it sound a bit better, if that makes sense. And I'll probably get rid of the bass first, because that does sound a bit boomy. So here we go.
Yeah.